What is up, guys? It is Jacob from Quad Hunting, and today this is the Lions Giants question mailbag / preview show. So I opened it up to questions earlier this week on my Facebook and then on my Twitter. If you want to get to those, that way you can ask questions later on in any other preview videos. I will leave links down below, and there'll be something showing up on screen here in probably these corners that will tell you how to get there and where to go to ask any questions you have on previews. So we're going to go right into the mailbag first instead of going into my preview like I normally would. I decided to change it this year. We're going to ask the questions first. That way I can then direct how I want the preview to go after that. So there's not as many questions this week, seeing as this is the first one I've actually opened it up for. But I went over to SB Nation. It was the Big Blue View. That is the New York Giants SB Nation site. Yeah, if you've watched my videos, you know how I feel about SB Nation and that's the only place I get my news from. Questions we have from the Giants fans, we'll get into those first, and then I will base my rest of my preview off those questions. First question comes from Billiam Rye 4. Thank you for asking, and that is, can you give Eli Manning a 7 Mississippi second head start? A couple of other questions I'm just going to, because they all kind of pertain to each other. Question from JF Swanton is, do you have any remotely decent defensive linemen? And right here is from something Big Blue. I'm sorry, can't pronounce that. I'm not going to look like an idiot trying either. But if we started a GoFundMe account, would your D-line be willing to accept an all-expense-paid trip to Miami to hang out on a boat with Justin Bieber Monday night? Seriously, which position battle do you think is most interesting to watch Monday night? And thanks for spending the week with us. You're welcome. I will answer that in just a second. Yes, okay, that's all of the questions. I got a lot of questions about the defensive line. Those are the ones I got so far. But, so Giants fans are, I guess, understandably concerned about their offensive line and how much pressure they gave up. And when Eli Manning doesn't trust his offensive line like he didn't in week 1, it just brews bad things for the New York Giants. Our defensive line, I'm going to answer that one first. Do we have any remotely decent defensive line? We have Ansah. There's a question about him later on. But so far, I haven't been, he's getting pressure, but he's not completing the play. It's the thing I've noticed about him. Otherwise, you have A'Shawn Robinson, who, if he doesn't get pressure, he can get up and bat the ball down. He's very good about swatting the ball down. Nagata played like a man on a mission last week. He was on it, and he looked almost more like the Nagata of old, not the one that's been at the Lions the last couple of years. But that could have been due to a weaker Arizona Cardinal offensive line. So Anthony Zettel got some pressure, made a nice sack, and then was able to also get downfield and cover a pass, which he got his hands on and almost picked it off. So I would say we have some good defensive linemen. We do rotate a lot. It's not like we keep just 4 out there. We rotate in, like, every player that we have at defensive line gets rotated in at some point, and we'll collect some snaps. So that's basically how the Lions like to play. We know that's not our strength right now. So we have a lot of guys that we just keep rotating to keep fresh. And a fresher, less talented guy towards the end of the game is better than a tired superstar, in my opinion. So I would say we have some decent defensive linemen. I wouldn't say we have any great. And can we give Eli Manning a 7 Mississippi second head start? Can your offensive line even hold for 7 Mississippi? A joke, a kid, kind of. But I guess it's all on your offensive line if we give him a head start. And I don't think they'd be willing to take an all expense paid trip to Miami. I think they'd get paid more to go, tackle and sack Eli Manning. I think, and hanging out with Bieber on a Monday night. Now, okay. Isn't that something the Giants team did? I can't remember if it was the Giants, but there was a big issue, and then they ended up losing whatever game was next. They weren't practicing enough and spending enough time, and they were out partying on a boat. I believe that was that. Let me know down below. But which position battle do I think is going to be most interesting? And I do believe it is going to be how the offensive lines on both teams can handle the defensive lines, and that's going to be where the battle's won, is in the trenches. It's not going to be, because we know what Stafford can do, and all that, and we know the Giants' defense that's their strong point. Has been their strong point ever since Eli's been pretty much there. I would believe that the Giants' offensive line, I think, is more of a weakness than the Lions is. The Lions didn't look great last week. If you can attack our left tackle, our center, and our left guard, pretty much our whole left side of the line, that's where we're the weakest. Left guard more than anything else. Graham Glasgow has just been kind of a turnstile so far throughout preseason in this first game. He would be the guy I would target and put my best rusher on because he'll let him through. He just gets beat up anymore. Swanson didn't look good either, our center, last week. He was getting letting pressure through. And Greg Robinson did look better than a lot of Lions fans had assumed, but right now he's still, I consider him one of the weakest points in the offensive line. Hopefully we get to see TJ Lang, our right guard, look better this game. He looked a little on and off last week, but Ricky Wagner is our best offensive lineman. He was manhandling his guy the whole time last week. And so hopefully that's what we see again this week. We paid a lot of money for him, and I'd love to see that. But that's a position battle. I believe it's going to be watching the Giants' offensive line and how they perform against the Lions' defensive line and the Lions' offensive line, seeing if they can plug gaps and stop rushing and let Stafford have some time. Even if the offensive line gets weak on the Lions' side, you still have Stafford's mobility that you can kind of rely on. He knows how to use his feet to avoid sacks and such. So kind of talked about that. We got our 3-part question from Elite 10. Thank you for those questions. And they are, what is going on with Ziggy Ansah? Is he healthy? And what are your expectations from him in 2017? He has been, right now, I think he's the only player that's been limited in practices lately. I think Tate was limited a couple times this week, but I believe he had a full practice the last one. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know we're at the healthiest we've been in forever. And Ziggy is... last year he had that high ankle sprain issue, never fully healed right, and he kept playing and didn't look all that amazing. Did take some time off, but towards the end of the season he got 4 sacks in 2 games, so it looked like Ziggy of old. They didn't really do much with him in the preseason, trying to rest him up and get him ready. And then last week they kept him on a snap count limit. He didn't play as much as he normally would have. So hopefully, you start to see him get more and more responsibility put back on him as the team deems he's getting healthier and healthier. But he's not 100% healthy yet, but he's as close as he can be at this point. And my expectations from him in 2017 is I'd like to see another double-digit sack year. I think low side 6 sacks, high side 14. But more probable, I think he's going to fall in like 8, 9, 10 area. Hopefully he just gets something going, and because it is a contract year for him. So I mean, he's going to be the next guy that's up for signing and our next big impact guy. And if he wants the money, he's got to prove that he's worth it. And that's kind of everyone's expecting out of him, is that he's going to look good in his contract year and get a good paycheck. But his second question is, there was talk on draft day of Giants' interest in tight end Eric Ebron, who the Lions selected. Has Detroit been happy with the pick up to this point, and what does his future hold? Ebron. I like Ebron. The team, of course, likes him. He's still there, of course. But has Detroit been happy with the pick? This has been the most polarizing pick I think the Lions have made in the last 10 years, is Eric Ebron. Especially coming after him when Aaron Donald got drafted. And then I can't remember if the Giants were before or after us in that year, but you guys drafted Odell Beckham. And a lot of Lions fans were like, I think it was after, because a lot of Lions fans were like, we could have had Odell Beckham instead of Ebron. But at the time, we needed a tight end. We were good on receivers. I know that's kind of looking short-sighted. We didn't really draft for the future there. We drafted because at that point we thought we were a team that was built to go to the next level. We still had we had just got Tate. We had still had Calvin Johnson. So our wide receivers, we weren't like too crazy on drafting another one, the whole fan base at least. But defensive line, a lot of people were like, everyone was pretty much up to that point was pretty confident that Sue was leaving and that we weren't going to be able to get Fairley back either. So they wanted Aaron Donald, but the Lions saw that they had a need at tight end and they could address that with Ebron, and they took the chance on him. And I like him. I think he's okay. Is he a first round worthy? Was he worthy being drafted in the first up to this point from hindsight being 2020? I don't think so. But if he can turn it on, and I know a lot of Lions fans get annoyed when they say if he can have his breakout year. His main issue, though, is just catching the ball and holding on to it the whole time. We didn't get to see much of him last week. I think he only had 2 catches, but it was more because Stafford was leaning on the receivers, and the Cardinals had a good defense, and they were good at blocking Ebron. So what does his future hold? They picked up his 5th-year option, so we'll have to see. And what is my prediction on the Giants-Lions season records? Will they make the playoffs? I can't speak for the Giants too much. I mean, I don't get a chance to watch them very often, so I don't know. But after last week and the trouble I'm hearing about your guys' offensive line, I wouldn't be too optimistic. Sorry, but I think 7-9, 8-8 maybe from the Giants, unless that offensive line really starts to gel. And that could happen. The offensive lines are known to have to take time, but I don't know. I mean, I've never really been a huge guy on Eli Manning, so 7-9, I think, for the Giants. And the Lions is going to be how well we do coming out of the beginning of the season, where our record is going to be really important. With we have our schedule is heavy front-loaded this year with easier so far looking teams in the back. So if the Lions can come out of the beginning of the season 500 or better, then I have high hopes on them making the playoffs. If they come out with like 2-3 wins out of the first half of the season, I'm not very confident in their chance to make the playoffs. But Lions record, I'm gonna just 9-7 right now. I'm still feeling 9-7. I think I said that in my first prediction video for the schedule, and that's kind of where I'm still sitting. Will they make the playoffs? It all depends. The Lions, I don't think, are going to win the NFC North. That'll still be the Packers. We'll have to fight with the Giants, and I don't think the Bears are going to be as bad as they've already looked decent enough against the Falcons. So the NFC North will be a hard division this year, and they're not going to win it. Well, their best shot is going to be the 5th or 6th wild card spot. And the good thing with the Giants is they have a division where it could be still considered wide open. I know you have the Cowboys. I'm not a huge Dak Prescott supporter yet. I want more time on that, but I think that both teams could have a shot at the playoffs. Just Giants more so because they have a better chance of winning the division. I don't think the Cowboys are up there as high as the Packers in terms of difficulty to beat. So we'll see about that, but that's just my opinions right now. I think both teams could. It's going to depend on how the divisions shake out. Could I rank our receiving options? And that is from Odell Beckham Jr. That is a wonderful name. I like that. I like that one. That's going to be the best name so far of the video. But so thank you for the question. And could I rank the receiving options? So right now I'm going to have to put Tate number 1 just because of his game last week, 10 catches, and he seemed to be Stafford's go-to guy whenever he needed yards and a first down. So I think it would be Golden Tate. Number 2 is still probably Marvin Jones. It all depends on where you are in the field too. If you're in the end zone, you're going to be looking more for Ebron or Galladay because they can jump and they can get up above the defense. But if you're just looking like between the 20s, then I'm looking more towards a Tate and a Jones. Jones for his speed ability where he can get down the field. Tate for his short catch and then breaking off a huge run after that. Ebron I got to put up there. And then Theo Riddick, you can't ever sleep on Theo Riddick or Amir Abdullah. They both have good receiving ability. They didn't show that so much last week, but Riddick did with his catch in the red zone that he spun then into the end zone. So I would have to say I think Tate's a little higher. So I'd go Tate, Jones, Riddick, Ebron, Galladay there, and then the rest after that. That's what I'd put it as. From me15, MEE15. Thanks for the question. And is if Odell Beckham Jr. plays, how do you think the Lions cover him and Marshall? The Lions don't like to lock one guy onto someone. Slay, I believe, plays the left side of the field, and then Lawson will play the right, and then they'll move the slot guy around depending on where the slot receiver is. So it's going to be depending on whoever you put on what side. But I think if Odell plays, I believe it's going to be, you'll see more of whatever side of the field he's on. You'll see Lawson in a safety. If he's on the left side with Slay, I think it'll just be Slay on him. If he's in the slot, I think it'd still be Diggs in a safety, even though Diggs had a great game against Larry Fitzgerald last week. Made Larry Fitzgerald look really old and not as good. So, yeah, we don't really just... I mean, I don't think the Lions will just keep Slay on Odell Beckham. I think Slay just plays the one side of the field, and then they'll put whoever else over on the other side, Lawson, Diggs, or if it's DJ Hayden. They're not locked down to individual players. So if I could have done it, it would have been Slay on Odell, and then I would have put Diggs or Lawson on Marshall with a safety help, whoever kind of just over the field. But if I believe the Lions will put more effort on Marshall, because I don't think Odell Beckham's really at the point where he's completely ready to play. I think the Giants will more use him as a decoy like the Lions did with Calvin a few years back when Calvin was hurt. So one from B Giant is, just how good are your running backs? Riddick is great when it comes to catching the ball out of the backfield, not so good running. Abdullah is more of our running back, but last week did not look really good. Was not able to hit any holes because the offensive line wasn't really opening him up. His longest run, if I look here, he only averaged 2 yards a carry last week, so that's definitely not something you want. But the Lions kept forcing the run, and they need to keep doing that again. They need to keep the defense honest. But I would not rate our running backs like in top 10 as a unit. I think they line up more in the top 15, maybe middle of the NFL in terms of talent and ability. I would put them. That's probably our weakest spot on offense is our running backs. I do have faith that they can do the job that they need to get done, but I don't know. It's not like a couple years ago with the Vikings and Adrian Peterson where you knew it was going to be Peterson's day. The Lions, they don't really have a running back they can lean on. Last question. Thanks for the question, by the way, B Giant. How much weight are you giving the season opener for both teams? And as an outsider, do I think Eli is done? I think Eli's getting to the point. I don't know if I'd say he's done. Right now, he's got an offensive line that he's not trusting. That's what everyone in the main media is saying, and I've seen that I think a couple places here on Big Blue View. I don't know if I'd say Eli is done. I would say he's getting close to being done. If he has a good offensive line, I think he definitely has more time, but I think he's close. I think he's close to being done. I think Father Time's catching up. But how much weight am I giving the season opener? I don't know if I would want to put too much weight on it, just because, if you look at last week, the Lions were able to beat up on a good defense. I don't know if that doesn't happen every week. I know that's not going to happen every week. It'd be telling. This will be more telling after this week to see how they do against a Giants defense, which I think is really good. But for you guys, I don't know. The offensive line could gel and could get better, and Eli then could put faith in the offensive line and start to look better, but I'm not going to put too much weight into it. It's the NFL any given Sunday. So that is all the questions from Big Blue View. We've got a couple more here on Pro Sports Rec. And I'm going to go here. This one comes from Jugs. This is a fantasy question about the Lions, and I desperately started Marvin Jones in fantasy last week, and he bailed me out with a touchdown and a few short grabs. Did I just get lucky, or is Jones a part of this offense going forward? I would think after last week, with last week's game, you were lucky that Jones was able to get stuff for you because he was being covered by Patrick Peterson. I don't know how much I would trust any Lions receiver, week to week at least in fantasy. I don't know if I'd consider any of them to be starter material every week. I believe they're guys you could have as a number three receiver, maybe a flex if you need it. But one of them could go off any week, and then the other ones could not. That's just how the Lions' offense is built. Stafford throws the ball around to everyone. Last week it was Tate's day with 10 catches. Galladay had a good day also with 2 touchdowns. Jones then had a decent day with his 1, but I don't know if I would consistently trust any of those guys every week. I do have Galladay on my fantasy team, but I'm not starting him right now. I'm going to give him a couple weeks to see what he can do. But Jones is a part of the offense, and like I said, it's just going to be whoever can get open. All of our guys are talented, and it's just who's going to be open and who's going to be covered by the weaker person. This one comes from Moto, and this is about the Giants game, and it's, will the Giants score 6 or 7 touchdowns? Are you talking about all season? I kid. I'm sorry. Giants fans are watching this. I shouldn't make fun of their team as much. But will the Giants score 6 or 7 touchdowns? I don't think it'll be that high scoring. I think it'll be 2 touchdowns, a couple field goals maybe, for a total score of like 20. I think it won't be as like a high scoring game. I think it'll be Lions. I'll give my full prediction later, but it's gonna be. I'm predicting the Lions to win because I'm a homer. I'm sorry, but I'll go through more position by position in a little bit. But I think no, 6 or 7, no. 2 or 3, yes. And this one comes from Egmar. You. Should the Bengals consider starting A.J. McCarron over Andy Dalton after his shit-tastic Week 1 performance, or is it too early to tell? Well, now I think we've had two weeks now because they played Thursday night. Maybe I would start considering it. My answer was no. Just because he had one bad week doesn't mean he'll have another bad week. But he had another bad week. I think that leash starts to get shorter and shorter. And I mean, AJ McCarron is viewed as one of the guys who is going to be, is one of the better backups, even though we haven't seen much of him. So I'd start considering it a little more really realistically right now. McCarron over Dalton coming up here. If Dalton continues to play awful. But I'm thinking right now it's still, even after 2 weeks, is too early to tell. But that ends the questions. You can always ask more questions on Twitter and Facebook. I will be releasing an article here written. I'll put a link to that down below as well, where you can go to read any of these answers. This video is long already, and I haven't even really gotten into the position by position. But anyways, we're going into the position by position. Quarterback definitely Stafford versus Manning. And right now, with just based on offensive line play and quarterback play, Manning does not play as good when his offensive line, he does not put as much trust in them. Stafford can obviously do work when his offensive line is not as good. We've seen that throughout his whole career. So based on more of that, I'm going to lean more on Stafford than I would on Manning on this game. Last week Stafford was 29 for 41, 292 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Manning had 29 for 38, so he actually had a better pass completion percentage for 222 yards. That Dallas defense was not really giving up much, and he had a dink and dunk. No touchdowns, and I believe I gotta go to his individual stats. He only had the 1 interception last week. He was sacked 3 times. So lean more on. I believe more on Stafford than I would on. I believe in Stafford more than I believe in Manning here. Rushing, neither team really did much rushing. The Giants 7 attempts 16 yards, 3 attempts 14 yards, 1 attempt 6 yards, 1 attempt -1. That's 35 yards rushing there, and that's not good. Definitely need to see more out of both run games, but I don't know who I'd trust more here. They're both bad. Yeah, okay. Moving into corners and not corners, receivers and tight ends. Stumbling here already. Shane Vereen, running back, he had a good game for catching anyways. 9 catches for 51 yards. He didn't get any rushes, but Sterling Shepard, Roger Lewis, Evan Ingram, Paul Perkins, Brandon Marshall only had the 1 catch. You guys definitely need Odell Beckham healthier sooner rather than later. And you need that big play threat. Marshall, I don't know if he's so much as a big play threat. I haven't paid attention to him much in the last couple of years. But I would, you need a big play threat, and that's where you'll get that if Odell comes back. But as I mentioned earlier, the Lions have a bunch of guys they can lean on, and I'm not a Giants fan. I don't know this, but I don't see guys that get leaned on too much. Sterling Shepard, had 7 catches. Marshall, from an outsider's view, and I probably totally wrong on this, it looks like you have the 2 receivers in Odell and Marshall. Then you just kind of have a bunch of other guys that are just kind of there. Not like huge impact guys, but like guys that are getting thrust into this position right now because of Odell. Like I said, I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, Giants fans, call me out on it. I don't know. So that's just kind of what I'm looking here at the stats. Moving special teams wise, I'm gonna have to give that to you guys. Hopefully, with Jeff Locke being signed, we'll have better luck punting. But the defense is, like I said, is what scares me. That defensive line, with still even JPP, even still is still good. Your secondary, Landon Collins, Eli Apple, and Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie, they're up there in terms of being, and Janoris Jenkins. Wow, yeah, your corners are pretty good, pretty loaded. Even with DRC getting older, I'm still be a little nervous about him and whoever he's matching up against. But I believe you guys, your defense is going to be better than our defense, and that's going to be. Lions had a good game last week defensively, but that was against an old team that we hurt the best running back in the NFL, and that really put a limit on them. But 3 sacks for you guys last week. No, 1 sack, only the one. I read the wrong line. From Oliver Vernon. It'll be interesting to see how that defensive line plays. And no interceptions yet for you guys. But if we move over to the Lions side, this is more stuff I know about. Like I said, I have more faith in Stafford than I do Manning. Our running backs are just kind of a mess right now. I mean, you have Amir Abdullah, did not really do well last week. His longest rush was 7 yards, average 2. So there's that. Dwayne Washington, I never want to see return another field goal or another kick again unless he just knees it in the end zone every single time. And then Theo Riddick, more of a pass catcher. He's not a running back. He's more of a receiving running back. Lions do like to run some reverses and sweeps and stuff, and they'll give it to Tate most of the time in that opportunity there. Our second longest rush last week came from Casey Redford, the punter that got hurt because he took the ball and dropped the snap and then ran out of the end zone like an inexperienced player would do. I was going to call him an idiot, but I can't say that. He's inexperienced. This is his first ever game. So, made a mistake. Sadly, he got injured. His season is done. His career could possibly be done. But what can you do? It's the NFL. I do trust our receivers more just because you guys have, talent-wise, your top 2 might be more talented than the Lions, but I believe that depth-wise, the Lions have more options. Like I said, could be wrong. But with Tate, Jones, Galladay, and then you even have TJ Jones who can contribute. Contributed a really nice toe-tapping catch on the sideline, so showing off that he has got better awareness over the couple of years that he's not been a big part of the team. And then you have Ebron, who last week 2 catches, 9 yards. Hopefully get to see a little more of him this week. Then we can finally not look so dumb for taking him instead of Aaron Donald and Odell Beckham. But like I said earlier, Riddick had a touchdown, Galladay had 2, and Jones had the 1. I have faith in Prater as our kicker. He's dominant, won the special teams NFC Player of the Week last week because of his punting ability. When he was punting, I slide down in my chair every time. But I don't really trust our return game. Punt returns, yes, were okay. Kick returns were not. Jamal Agnew looked pretty solid last week in his punt returning skills. But don't let anyone, the Lions need to tell them just to take a knee. And last week our defense did look good, but I don't know how much they'll be able to keep it up. Glover Quinn, Miles Killebrew, and Tavon Wilson all had interceptions last week, with Killebrew returning one for a touchdown. So it always helps when your defense can give you some points. We only had the 1 sack, and that was from Anthony Zettel. Like I mentioned earlier, We did force 2 fumbles last week, one from David Johnson, and I can't remember who the second one was from. I think it was maybe Palmer. Glover Quinn forced one, and then A'Shawn Robinson forced another. Robinson, I believe, is when you're going to start seeing him become more of a dominant force. Right here. Yeah, those are the 3 interceptions I mentioned. I don't really know much else to really talk about here, but besides my prediction, I'm predicting the Lions win, but I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think either defense is going to really let this get away from them. I'm predicting, whereas I see the Giants defense better than Detroit's defense, and I see Detroit's offense better than the Giants' offense. So I believe we'll see something along the lines of like 26-23 or like a 28-20 some. It'll be like within a field goal, I think. It'd be within 3 points, which I believe the over-under is similar there, but that's where I'd put it. So yeah, let me know what you think down below, and thank you to the Giants fans from Big Blue View, tongue twister, for giving me questions this week. I'll be doing these more. Like I said, if you want to leave questions, you can leave them on my Facebook page. It's Quad Hunting Broadcasting. Keep an eye out for when I put out, I'm taking questions for the week and the next game. And then you also have my Twitter, which is @HuntingJacob. I will then also tweet out when I'm taking questions, and then you can tweet back. Make sure to follow on both of those to keep up to date on all the videos and such. But yeah, if you liked the video, go ahead, leave a like, leave some comments down below of what you think. How stupid am I for these? And or if you did enjoy it, let me know. That is always nice to hear. But yeah, go ahead and hit the subscribe. I know I said I was going to start this last week at the Cardinals, but I got busy. I'm sorry, but I think I got it to where I can do all these every week. So keep an eye out for those, and I will talk to you guys all next time.